Wow, a disastrous White House press conference just unfolded. Trump's chief propagandist, Caroline Leavitt, was asked why Donald Trump lied about a white genocide burial site to the South African President Ramaphosa, who visited the White House and was in the Oval Office yesterday. And Trump was claiming there was a burial site where thousands of white Africans who were killed in a genocide were buried. There's no genocide targeting white South Africans.
Ever wondered what happens when Fox News corners the Trump administration? Spoiler, it's not pretty. Discover the moment Caroline Leavitt panicked when challenged on evidence, or the lack of it, at a chaotic press briefing.
Yamish, good to see you.
Hi, thanks for taking the question.
Sure.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that?
What's not true, Yamish?
It's not true that the video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that video showed the crosses that represent.
Was what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin.
The president
and those
claimed
crosses
that
are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
Disputing the fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Verifies the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to
Yamish,
show?
what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated. And that's a ridiculous line of questioning.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. What happens when a press secretary is caught juggling bad facts, worse excuses, and terrible optics? You get Caroline Leavitt pacing through a press briefing like she just walked into a room full of leaky faucets, all spraying at once. This wasn't just a bad day at work, it was a spectacle, a full-blown case study in what happens when you try patching cracks in a dam with chewing gum. The topics: a greatest hits compilation of controversy, Trump's baseless claims about white genocide, a shady crypto dinner, and one very suspicious budget conversation. The first crack formed when Leavitt was grilled on Trump's comments about white genocide in South Africa. Trump had thrown out unproven claims about farms being seized and white farmers being murdered in large numbers, triggering a wave of outrage, but not much proof. Leavitt doubled down, weaving a story of emotional imagery, even referencing so-called burial sites to paint the narrative as credible. It felt like she was trying to sell a bad movie script nobody asked for. The problem: major outlets like the Associated Press swiftly debunked these claims, citing government data and actual on-the-ground reporting that showed no such epidemic was taking place. Her defense wasn't just shaky, it was a flat tire, and her attempt to keep the car moving made it obvious the wheels were coming off. As if that weren't enough, the focus shifted to Trump's private dinner with crypto influencers, a meeting that sent ethics watchdogs into a frenzy. Asked about the ethical implications of the president whining and dining crypto heavyweights with potential business interests in White House policies, Leavitt threw out a dismissive "it's his private time" response. That's like catching someone sneaking cookies before dinner and hearing, "Well, the jar was open." It didn't sit well, especially with questions swirling about whether this dinner tied back to campaign funding or influence peddling, neither of which screams private.
Garrett, go ahead.
Caroline, you guys are very proud of your record on transparency. I have two transparency-related questions for you.
Sure.
On the president's dinner tonight, will the White House commit to making a list of the attendees public so people can see who's paying for that kind of access to the president?
Well, as you know, Garrett, this question has been raised with the president. I have also addressed the dinner tonight. The president is attending it in his personal time. time. It is not a White House dinner. It's not taking place here at the White House, but certainly I can raise that question and try to get you an answer for it.
Okay, and on the Qatari aircraft, the Air Force has said they're going to classify all the information about the work that has to get done to bring it up to snuff to be Air Force One. Previous Air Force One contracts, including the one that the president entered into in 2018, are public. That's available knowledge. Will the White House commit to releasing who's doing that work and the cost of that work? I understand that some elements might be classified about specific systems, but will you commit to releasing that basic information so people can see ultimately what this costs?
Well, Garrett, as you know, that's a question for the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, who is accepting this jet as part of their fleet.
Declassify anything he wants.
Well, you'll have to ask the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, who is accepting this jet as part of its fleet.
By the end, you'd think she'd want questions to stop, but no, the spiral wasn't done yet. Next came a slip-up about targeting protesters, one that lit up headlines. Let's see how this disaster unfolded. Just when you thought the press briefing had hit rock bottom, Caroline Leavitt whipped out a shovel and started digging. While defending the administration's actions against pro-Palestinian protesters, Leavitt tripped over her own words and said, "I mean pro-Hamas," before scrambling to correct herself. If Freudian slips are moments of truth sneaking out, this one practically screamed into a megaphone. The press room, dead silent for a moment. Twitter, a firestorm. Her immediate recovery didn't fool anyone. The slip hinted at how the administration was conflating pro-Palestinian activism with outright support for Hamas, leaving people to wonder if there was something deliberate behind the mix-up. Critics pounced, pointing out how this wasn't just a careless mistake. It was a window into an administration that increasingly viewed certain kinds of dissent as threats. Leavitt had been defending policies like revoking student visas and cutting funding to campuses where these protests occurred, framing it, get this, as a move to combat anti-Semitism. The problem, for many, the administration's actions sounded less like a defense of Jewish students and more like a crackdown on free speech. Picture this. It's like accidentally hitting reply all on an email where you've just roasted the boss. It tells the whole company what you really think. Except in this case, the audience wasn't the company break room. It was the entire nation. And instead of an office screw-up, it hinted at a government willing to blur the lines between protest and terrorism labels. This wasn't the first time Trump's administration faced backlash for suppressing opposition. They'd previously come under fire for policies criticized as undermining free speech, especially concerning the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But where most slip-ups fade, this one stuck. People weren't just concerned about the protesters now, they were wondering if the administration was revealing its broader playbook to silence dissent altogether. The press conference unraveled even further from here. If this was a reflection of how they operate under pressure, what else might they be hiding? Stay with me, there's more to unpack. The press briefing wasn't just a mess, it was an unfiltered projection of a White House on thin ice. From emotional defenses that collapsed under fact checks to Freudian slips exposing their deeper motives, every moment screamed one thing: control was slipping. And when leaders lose control of their narrative, it's not just embarrassing, it's dangerous. What are they hiding behind all the dodging and spinning? Accountability becomes our job because clearly they've dropped the ball. If this is how messy things get in public, imagine the chaos behind the scenes. Stick around, there's plenty more cracks to uncover in this administration's facade.